It's fair to say that the Senate crossbench are pretty unhappy about the proposed Senate reform that's been variously called undemocratic, and by David Leyonhjelm it's been called a dirty little deal. The Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm joins me in the studio right now. David, I read today that the minor parties are planning a fight back. What do you mean by that, and how are you going to do it?
Okay, there's been a minor party meeting on Saturday. It involved about 35, 40. Nobody did a really accurate count, but we know that at least 30 parties were present, all minor parties. And the proposal wasn't my proposal, but the proposal is, first of all, to put pressure on the dirty dealers, the Liberals, Nationals are party to it, and the Greens, to think again about this arrangement they have to reform the Senate voting system. And if they don't, and the Senate voting system is passed, as looks likely at the moment, what it will do is wipe out the minor parties pretty much. There's a very small chance that any of us will ever be elected. Now, the idea is that if we're going to go, we'll take a few of the buggers with us. So
who do you think you'll take with you? You're eyeing off a few seats in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria.
Well, the plan is to run the progressive parties, so the leftish type parties,
yep,
in the seats that the Greens, well, the one seat that the Greens hold, which is Melbourne,
yep,
and also in the Labor seats that the Greens have their eye on, and where their threat is the Greens, not from the Liberals. So those parties will run in those seats and preference Labor ahead of the Greens. The Liberal Democrats plus other parties that want to get involved in this from the more conservative side of politics will run in Liberal-held seats and marginal seats and preference Labor before the Liberal Party. And there are 10 or 15 we identified where we could do that, and it's likely that if the vote is close, minor party preferences would determine the outcome.
So have you got a lot of cash behind you this time? Have you got more financial backing? Are you pooling your resources? How's it all going to work?
Well, the key to it, nomination fees, they've gone up, but they're still not prohibitive for most of us. So we can afford to nominate in, 3 to 6 seats, and between us there's probably 10 or 12 parties that could do it. We wouldn't be able to hand out in every seat. We don't have enough people. That's the difference between a big party and a small party. So the Liberal Democrats, for example, would hand out perhaps in one seat in Victoria, maybe one seat in New South Wales, one seat in Queensland. The Shooters and Fishers Party, the Family First Party, Katters Australia Party, those sort of groups would hand out in an individual seat themselves, perhaps.
What's going on in the Senate at the moment? Is there anything going to pass? Is the government even bothering to talk to you at the moment? Or are we just biding our time, waiting for an election?
Yeah, it's not a very constructive environment, it must be said. The last week, we sat until Thursday evening. The week was spent fighting about the electoral reforms. The Labor Party put on a filibuster all week, so they're opposed to these electoral reforms. They don't want to be cast permanently into an embrace with the Greens. And so it was a fairly awkward situation. Next week we're back again for just 3 days. The government has introduced a time management motion, which means that the debate is going to be limited. They want to jam through a few bills. They'll use the gag to do it. The Greens are in collusion with them. So it's a fairly hostile environment at the moment. And the government is not negotiating with the crossbench very much because we just got 3 days and then we're into a 7-week break. So
is there any chance of passing the ABCC legislation in your eyes? I mean, it wasn't going to pass anyway, but that's the double dissolution trigger, isn't it? And I read today that there could be a special sitting in April. So what's your read of that situation?
Yes, well, the ABCC bill is not in that time management motion. The motion is that the Senate not adjourn until various bills have been considered, and that includes the electoral reform bill and about 4 or 5 others. Now, that motion didn't include the ABCC bill, which we thought was peculiar. We assumed that it was in order to keep the Greens comfortable and supporting the use of the gag. But you're right, there would be no trigger based on the ABCC if the if there's a double dissolution. The ABCC wouldn't become a trigger. There are two other triggers, though, the registered organisations and the CEFC. So they could go to one, but the purpose of having a double dissolution really is to have a joint sitting afterwards and then pass through the bills that got blocked in the Senate twice. So if they can't get that through, you have to wonder what's the point.
Just finally on gay marriage, do you think the government should just hold this plebiscite at the same time as elections, save us all time and money?
Well, I don't think there should be a plebiscite at all. I think Parliament should vote on the issue. But on the assumption that there is going to be a plebiscite, yes, it should be held at the same time as the election. It will save money. It will also mean it's less acrimonious because people will be fighting about other things as well as the same-sex marriage issue. So I think that would be a good idea.
And everyone else has offered their character assessment on Tony Abbott and Peter Credlin today. Do you wish to do the same?
No, even if they were having an affair, it's not my business. I don't care.
Senator David Leyonhjelm, thanks so much for your time. Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm. We will speak to you again. As I said, thanks for your time. Now, a quick break on the